Welcome to the Seriously Social podcast with your host, Simone Douglas. Today's guest is business coach Cara Lambert. She and Simone talk about imposter syndrome, digital overwhelm, and the value of collaboration in business.
So joining me today for Seriously Social, the podcast, is Cara Lambert of Cara Lambert. Welcome.
Thanks, Simone.
All right, so maybe we can start off if you can just give us the Cliff Note version as to, what you're all about and how you find yourself here today.
So what I'm all about is teaching business owners the psychology behind business, whether it's their own personal psychology and how to motivate themselves, how to motivate their staff, and also how to connect and use psychology with their customers as well, especially with social media. So that's the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, cool. I think the psychology of themselves must be fascinating because as business owners, and I know for myself, resilience is such a big part of being successful in business. And a lot of people don't take the time to interrogate their own psychology.
No, they don't. And what I found was that I was training business owners on social media and how to promote their business online.
Yeah.
And I give them all the skills and then they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, okay, I can lead a horse to water, guys. What's going on? And I actually have a psychology degree that sits behind all of this. So I was talking to them and, look, I'm actually really afraid of putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And so it was then delving into why and what was behind that. So sometimes it is that resilience and being able to go, hey, look, here I am. This is me and this is my business.
Yeah.
And doing that.
Do you find that in the face of that it's almost like building up that critical mass of empirical evidence that the sky is not going to fall in?
For some of them, yes. For some of them it is. Some of them it's that little story that they've always told themselves of, what, my voice really doesn't matter. And then it is that empirical evidence that sits behind of people are actually listening. They do want to know what I have to say.
Yeah.
And they do actually resonate with it and respond to it as well.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for a business that is trying to establish a voice in the digital realm, like in social media?
Wow, small question. Biggest problem, at the start, it's actually putting themselves out there. Taking that very first step and knowing that they don't have to be all things to all people and have this massive following. I was once told, 30% of your audience will love you. A third of your audience will love you, a third of your audience could care less, and a third of your audience will hate you.
So true. Yeah.
And you just played at that first third that love you, and that's all you need to worry about.
Yeah, and I think that's also ties in really nicely. I often talk to my clients about, get to know what your niches are. So really understand who are your bread and butter clients. Yep. So the ones that you pay the bills on time, we like working with them. They help you to pay your bills on time. Yep. They're not the most profitable, but we like them. And then who are those cream clients that, you absolutely love? So you onboard one of them, they're very sticky, they turn into brand advocates. Yep. And then the dream clients that, your competitors wish they had, but they're your clients. But understanding how we service those people and more importantly, where we talk to them and how we talk to them and not trying to be all things to all people all the time because you can't.
Yeah, and I think for me it's that how we talk to them and talking to them the way that they want to be spoken to, not necessarily the way that we want to talk to them or we think they want to be spoken to. So that's the difference.
I think that's really difficult for business owners that don't have a background in psychology or counselling or people management. Yeah. It's often the biggest challenge is they're like, but this is what I want to say.
Exactly. And it's funny because one of the first things people say to me when I say I've got a psych degree, it's like, you're reading my mind, you're inside my head. Yeah. And it's actually that skill. It's like, I'm inside your client's head, or I'm inside your staff member's head, or guess what, I am actually inside your head, and I'm going to make you do X, Y, Z. So, it is getting in their head and finding out what they want to say.
Yeah. Do you find that puts you at a really good advantage, though, when you're working with clients to help them to tell their stories effectively on social media?
I think it makes it easier for them.
Yeah.
Because I'm also that one step removed. That, it doesn't matter so much to me. There is no right and wrong for me. This is it. Whereas a lot of business owners are a little bit afraid of, well, what if I get it wrong?
Yeah.
Like, well, guess what? You're not going to get it wrong. It's you. It's your brand. You say it and do it that way. So I think I have that advantage with being inside their heads.
Yeah, that you can just coach them a little bit along the way and keep them. I think there definitely is, working in that field, what's the word? It's not, burden's the wrong word, but a responsibility to support your client through that process of being seen. Because I think even in business, particularly I find often women in business, but the more men I talk to, the more I discover it's the same either way.
Yeah.
Is that it's that whole imposter syndrome of like, well, what if somebody says, actually, I don't know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So how do you, or what, more importantly, what do you think other business owners can do that help them get themselves past that little voice on the back of their shoulder that goes, you can't do that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I have for imposter syndrome is actually not making it about you.
Yeah.
So to make it about the audience that you're serving, it's like, so what am I doing? What am I giving to them? How am I helping them? Because they're the most important thing. So when you turn it and make it about yourself, then of course you're going to get, well, they're going to tap me on the shoulder and call me out for a fake or a phony or a fraud. And you really need to turn it around and put it onto the other person, make it about service and serving them.
Well, I think there's also that story of when you are focused on the relationship and focused on providing value, I don't think you can get it wrong.
No.
And so that's very empowering. Like every now and again I'll end up having a conversation with someone, not very often anymore, but where someone will go, oh, you're just always so out there. And I go, well, I'm just being me. And they're like, really? But, you say exactly what you mean, and you say exactly what you think, and you seem to be doing all of these things. And I was saying to someone the other day, I can't do it any other way. I can only do me, and I can only do it the way that I know how to do it.
I think when I first got into this industry, the hardest thing for me was comparison. Yeah. And I had to realise that I was so different to everybody else, and actually be okay with that. Yeah. Be okay with that difference. Like I said earlier, that 1/3 of the community.
Yeah, the people that you're talking to.
Exactly. Yeah. So why would you try to be anything different? Because if you focus on that 1/3 and serving that 1/3 that connects with you, if you are anything else other than yourself, you can't connect to them, and they're not going to follow you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to come on board with you. So especially in this kind of competitive environment.
Yeah, I think, do you think that comes down to trusting your own value or valuing what it is that you bring to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know for myself, often people will say, oh, who are your competitors? So, I did a website redesign the other day. My web developer, who's amazing, I worked with him forever. I think this is like the 6th website he's built for me. Yeah. And he's like, so who are your competitors? Because I want to go look at their speed of their sites and stuff. And I'm like, I don't have any. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm not competing with anybody. Yeah. I'm like, there are other people in the market that provide similar services, but they provide them in different ways. Yeah. Or they specialise in different niches, or they're more warm and fuzzy than me, or less warm and fuzzy than me. So
they have a different niche, It's all of those different kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely. And, in a lot of the groups that I'm in with other business owners, they say, oh, well, you've got to keep an eye on the competitors, do a competitor analysis to see where you are in the marketplace. I'm like, I actually wouldn't even know. Yeah. Because I'm too focused on my audience, my clients and me and what I'm doing and making sure I'm delivering the right stuff for them. Why would I be looking sideways?
I often wonder if that whole competitor mindset thing is a 1980s way of doing business. So if you look at, and I do particularly think women are doing this very well in business at the moment, is that idea of coopetition and cross collaboration and, you know, having conversations about things just because you can, and getting to know people just because you can, is a new way of doing business. And what I find happens is, like, I end up then getting referrals from my competitors and vice versa, because, you know, like, we have, you know, some specialist niches. Like, we're one of the few people that just specialises in disaster recovery. So if there's a massive social media blow up and there's a PR firestorm, you know, we will take on that client for a very short term period to put the fire out, and then they go back to doing what they were doing, because we know news cycles are so short anyway. But also, we tend not to take on duplicate clients that are in close geographical proximity. So, you know, if I have a dentist that's down the road from another dentist and they want someone to do what they need to do, then, you know, I need to be able to refer them to someone that can do it for them.
Yeah.
So, how have you found, like, on your journey in business, those kinds of collaboration opportunities?
Purely through networking. It really is the best way. And it's funny, I've come back around to it and seeing the value, especially here in Adelaide, the value of networking, having a good group of people around you, even the ones that are in the same marketplace as you are, so that you can work off of each other, work with each other to do it. Yeah. And I've got to admit, I think the we are tending to do that a lot more and a lot better. Maybe that's just the network that I'm in.
Yeah, it could be. I think it's also the it could just be that whole process of, you know, finding different ways to be successful too. So, you know, like Carly Thompson Barry, who has SA Woman, she's just an amazing human being. But, you know, like, often people go, oh, but, you know, aren't you in competition with SA Woman with your B&I stuff? And I'm like, no. I'm like, because it's completely different. Yeah. And you can be in more than one network. Like, I'm pretty sure there's nothing in my contract that says I can't be friends with anybody else. No. But yeah, there's still this kind of old perception that you have to live in a silo. But I think that what we're breaking down now is that, well, actually, the more people that you know and the more you know about them, the more fun everyone gets to have. Yeah. Yeah. So, how long have you had your business for now?
I was thinking about it earlier. 8 years.
Yeah, wow. So we started at the same time. Yep. That's really cool. And what was it that, like, made you go, right, this is what I'm doing now?
I'd come out of a corporate career in federal government, and my youngest was about to start school. So unlike most people that start a business, most women will take a break when the kids are born and start a small business. I was the opposite. My two were off at school and I was starting a small business. So it was quite literally the flexibility that I couldn't get in my career in federal government it gave me. And I just took the skills that I had. So I was a technical proofreader and copy editor, and I transferred that into a business. And because I had a business online on Facebook 8 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So
I know. You learn the nuts and bolts, and friends in business were coming to me and saying, oh, Cara, what about this? You know, how do I do this on Facebook or that? And I ended up helping them more and more. And then it was seeing how I could teach them the technical skills about being online and being on social media, which I'd actually learnt a lot of that stuff in government. Yeah. Because I started in 2000 and started in the e-business team that it was called back then. So I've actually been in e-business now for 20 years. Yeah. But yeah, it was teaching them the technical skills, and then I could see that a lot of it was their own psychology and their own behavioural things that were in the way, so I could then branch out. But it's really just people and how people behave and what holds them back and what motivates them.
But I think that raises a really good point, though, in that I often have the conversation with clients and people when they're in my training courses, and it's please remember and start treating your social media channels like a digital shop front. Like there is a customer that has walked into your door and you're having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
So if someone walked into your front door and you went, buy my stuff, have you bought my stuff? My stuff's $50. If you could please buy my stuff, that would be great. Can I have your money?
Yeah.
It's not going to go very well.
24/7.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that we tend to forget, that it's not the 9 to 5 thing. It's the 2 a.m. when, we can't sleep thing, or it's the other side of the world wanting to buy something for a friend here locally, or it's all of those kinds of things. And I'm the same with my clients. It's your digital shop front, and you can't be the hey, bye.
It does pose another challenge, I suppose, too, though, which is that blurred boundaries of there's no shutting off.
Yep.
So that digital exhaustion is very real, particularly right now when we're in the middle of this evolution of society 5.0, where you've got people who avoided adopting technology to a point have been forced to thanks to COVID. So they're on the platforms, they're engaging with the things. So out of curiosity, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to someone right now that is in digital overwhelm?
Wow. My favourite thing to do is unfollow.
Yeah.
I actually learnt that LinkedIn had an unfollow function. You could still remain connected with someone, but you don't have to see their stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you're in digital overwhelm, it is quite literally unfollow people. I know it's hard, especially if it's friends and family that are really getting on your goat.
Yeah, no, they're the first people I unfollow.
Mute them, unfollow them, whatever. Just give yourself that space, that virtual space, but it actually is real space between you and them.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Dan, who was Dan Levy from More Space for Light, and I was talking about the fact that as a parent, one of the most valuable things I do with my kids is Saturday morning is like breakfast at a cafe, and it's no phone time. So when Saxon was 6 and he's now 10, but the first time I did it, I put the phone in the alcove by the front door. I took it out of my pocket, put it on the alcove. So come on, boys, we're going to the cafe. And Saxon nearly had a panic attack. He's like, Mum, your phone, you need your phone. You can't leave the house without your phone. I'm like, no, this is phone-free zone. It's Saturday breakfast. We're going for breakfast. Don't get me wrong, it was hard. Like, I don't think I've ever been that unplugged, and it was even back then. But it's, I think you also have to give yourself permission to just 2 hours, nothing's going to happen so bad. Particularly on the weekends, just take some time away from the notifications.
Absolutely. It was one of the things that I did was get a smartwatch.
Yeah.
Because the constant ping and ding and buzz of notifications, I actually had to, even putting my phone on silent.
Yeah,
it just didn't help. So I got a smartwatch, and that way I can control a lot more which things I respond to, which ones I don't.
Yeah, cool.
In our household, I've got 2 teenagers, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Okay.
And there are no phones at the table.
Yeah, no, that's a good rule.
There are no phones at the dinner table. Yeah. And we all eat together every night.
Yeah,
so
nice.
it's keeping those little sanctuaries where, it's a no-tech zone, or the drive to and from school. I have great conversations with my kids during drop-off and pick-up. So it's seriously, we're in the car. You can put it down for a while.
I shall confiscate it. Put it down. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So if someone, let me get this right. If someone had given you a piece of advice in your first year of business that would have really saved you a lot of angst, what would that piece of advice be?
I wish I had a group of people around me who got it.
Yeah.
I use the Man in the Arena speech by Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And I now have a group of people around me who are in the arena. They may be colleagues.
Yeah.
Most of them actually aren't. One of my friends is a professor at university, and I see she's in the arena. She is in there getting it, mud kicked in her face and really getting it done. And I really admire her for it, because she's in there fighting for what she believes in and what she's passionate about.
Yeah.
And I wished I had that group of people around me sooner, because I wouldn't have been so distracted by who I thought was going to be the right person to give me the advice. They really weren't.
Yeah. I think often that is one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's probably a good spot to end, is that people come and go. When you're starting a business, everyone will have an opinion.
Yeah.
The people that have never been in the arena will have opinions. The people that are always going to work for someone else and get a paycheck every week are going to have an opinion. They're going to have an opinion on the type of parent you should be while you're running that business, what you should be doing. And I think there's a limit as to who you should take advice from.
Absolutely.
And the conversation I had with a business owner yesterday was, be very aware of the first statement or question someone makes to you when you share your dream with them. So if their very next question is, so what's your first step to move towards whatever it is that you're talking to, or something like that, then they're probably the kind of person that you want in that field, because they're not going, oh, that's ridiculous, you'll never get there.
What would you want to do that for?
Or you're aiming too high. What do you want to do that for? Those are the people who tend to need you to be much smaller than you can be in order to be okay. So, I think we're really lucky in Adelaide, because we do have this culture of coopetition, and, everyone has their own niche and everyone shares things. Which means it's been really great to have you on the podcast. And
thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for joining me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Seriously Social. Check our website for the latest news, show notes, and for details about Simone's latest book, Confident Networker.